is part 2 of 2 of my new disco drums tutorial. Basically, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be finishing this drum loop. So we're going to be adding in an extra few elements to spice it up. We're going to be adding in some tom rolls. If you would like this project, please just send me a message on my Facebook group, or my Facebook page rather. Just go into Facebook and search for Deep Scale. Okay, so basically, I think if I just maybe show you, if I just show you one of the tracks that I've been working on at the moment. I've done some pretty cool stuff with the drums on it, so let me just open it for you. So basically you can hear like little tom hits and stuff and just some cowbells. Yeah, so I want to just show you how I did that because it's yeah, it's just sounds pretty cool. I basically studied another track and then I just went in and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So how did they do that? So basically, we've got our basic drum loop. First thing I want to do actually is these open hats that I used. We could have used open or closed. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on what you want to do. The main thing is that we learned in the last tutorial was about adding width and the process that you go through to make sure all the levels are balanced. So I want to get this. I'm just going to tighten this up. I'm going to tighten up. I'm going to drop the sustain down. I'm going to tighten up the decay. And I want less delay on it. So I'm tighten that up as well. So I'm just going to turn that down the dry wet and the feedback a bit. Yeah, okay, so I want to put some of these like cowbell sort of sounds in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take up my percussion, and if you remember from the first tutorial, I've pre-selected all my sounds. Did this about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I just went through all the Vengeance libraries and I just built the drum kit for myself. Haven't needed anything more since. I strongly recommend you do that. You'll just waste your time searching for samples all the time. Otherwise, digging around in sample packs, it's a waste of time. So here we go, and I want to put these like cowbell sounds in. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to drop this down to one musical phrase, if you like. So that's just one bar. I'm going to create a MIDI clip in there, and I'm going to turn the audition on. So let's just open the screen up. I'm going to turn the audition on. I'm going to go to 1/16, and I'm going to find a cowbell sort of sound. There's one. Sounds just like a cow. Right. What I'm going to do is just drop some sort of. I'm going to just drop some sort of rhythm in. By the way, I'm pressing D on the keyboard, Command D to just duplicate these. Okay, that's pretty. It sounds sort of good, but like it's pretty lame because there's no variation in it. So. Oh, that sounded pretty good. What was that? Take that out. I'm going to put that in, right? What I'm going to do is, because the last tutorial in part 1 we just focused on creating the basis, the foundation for the drum loop. In this tutorial we're trying to add variation, and the way to add variation is to build a foundation, is to duplicate it, and then is to start cutting away. So I liken this process to be like sculpture. So sculpting a statue. So what we do is we double that over. We've got this fairly monotonous sound in the left here. What I'm going to say is there's too much going on in this left one, so I'm going to cut away from that one. And then in the right one, I want to just double one of these up. And I can even cut away from the right one. Yeah, so basically we've started with something. So the key thing to making electronic music is repetition is really important, but variation is also really important. So what I do is I create a workflow that allows me to start with repetition and extract variation. And those are like two really important things, because that's what keeps the music interesting. So now we have basically this drum loop. Yeah, and now basically what I want to do is just add. I'm just going to add a simple delay onto it, because we've got that, we've got a fairly decent loop going now, and I'm just going to link these up. And magic number for these simple delays is to link them so we take off the stereo effects and just put the 3 on. Turn the feedback up, the wet down a bit. And I reckon just this one here doesn't sound quite right. It just sounds a bit too soon. I'm going to put it back a bit. Yeah, and the final thing that I usually do is stick a groove on it. Okay, what's going on here, we have some phasing on the very first one, so I'm just wondering, I think this one's going to need to be moved, because by the time the delay hits on that one, it's obviously a third along, it's hitting that one, and we're getting a phasing effect. So... Yes, that gets rid of that phasing. Alternatively, you could leave the phasing in. I'm not sure anybody would actually notice. The main thing is the rhythm. Quick mixing tip now. Just going to filter out the bottom end of that. I always just cut the bottom end. If you've seen my other tutorials, usually just cut it around about the 500 mark. But between 5 and 700, that is the magic number for cutting. Oh, that's too much. We'll lower it a bit. Okay, so now we've got that. So what we're doing is we're sort of building, like, we want to build like a pyramid. Ideally, our target length for a drum loop to add enough variation is like 4 bars, right? Which is 1 to 5. And so we've started here in the first tutorial, we started just on 1. Now we've started to move out to 2. And by the end of this tutorial, I really want to get up to 5, maybe even 8. But 5 is pretty good. It's about right, I would say, for new disco. It's about 4 bars. So we've got our cowbell sound in. And the next thing that I want to just do is like this tom hit, because that's just the way the genre works, isn't it? And we are making a genre here, so. Did you hear that? It was like. That's a nice track. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into my deep scale. So, I mean, basically you can hear in that track, right, is the cowbell that I used in that one is the same one I used in this one. So like I say, if you head over to my Facebook page, and I'll send you the sample for that. But so what we want to do is we want to grab another drum sample. No, sorry, not tom. I know that particular tom that I use is in my percussion drum kit. I just use the same one for every single track. It's all samey music, so we just use the same one. It's like the same every single track. They all sound the same, but that's, I guess, part of the beauty of making electronic music. It's all samey. So we stick we're going to stick a MIDI clip in there. And I'm gonna hook out that particular tom sound. So I'm gonna just go. There's a tom sound here, and I'm gonna go to 16. I'm gonna find it. Now. That sounds nice. Like it. So. Let's have a think about this, right? We want it at the we want it to just be sort of going, in the background. We want it to just be creating a nice rhythm. We've already varied our rhythm here. So remember, we're trying to create this like pyramid. We're trying to create a pyramid of a drum loop that, you know, these sounds are like more sort of in your face. You know, you wouldn't want like these. But for example, right, the way to think about this is like with the shakers, it's like they're on every 16th because they're just a tiny little, mousy little sound that's in the background, doesn't really care in the mix. It's just something there to add a bit of drive. But these toms are big, beefy sounds. You don't want too many of them. And if you don't want too many of them, you need to think more carefully about the spacing. That's the basic rule of thumb. So the cowbells are less prominent than the toms. So at the bottom of the pyramid, we have, and by the way, I just realised this myself, which is why I love doing these tutorials. Is that you know, that is literally how it works. It's a pyramid, and the most prominent sounds are at the bottom of the pyramid, and you know, so you don't want much variation. You want some variation, but you don't want them coming in too often. And you know, the deeper in the mix that the other sounds are, the more of them you generally have. So like, you know, the hi-hats are more prominent. So you know, they're every you know, they're a couple of times per bar. Yeah, so okay, so I'm going to go with this pyramid analogy, and basically what we want to do is we want these tom hits usually at the end of a phrase because they signal the end of something. So I just want, basically what I want to get to with these is I'll just show you what I'm thinking here. So we've got the drum loop is, oh, I'm just duplicating this over. So the drum loop is going all the way along, and I want to, really, these tom loops, the whole point of them is to signal the end of the drum loop, okay? But in order to signal the end of something, I should really tell the listener that I'm going to signal the end. So what I want is I want 1 or 2 here, and then I want like 3 here, yeah? And that's basically the way I've built the track. Now, this is quite a short cycle to do this on. I'd probably do this over 8, to be honest. But for the purposes of just building this pyramid, you know, the base of the pyramid could be as wide as you want it to. But for the purposes of the tutorial, we can just, for the time being, we can just build it like so. So basically, I want to work backwards. So what I'm going to do is instead of going in there, I'm actually just going to work on the end of the phrase. And I think 3 is like too much just for the drum loop. Yeah, that sounds good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put the envelope on it. I'm going to bend the pitch on it, bring it down. And if you remember from the first tutorial, get the volume right on this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, we wanted to signal that, as we said earlier, and I think that low one is the identification of we have definitely finished now. It's like doo-doo-doo, it's the last one, you know. It's like, hey Pete, you've just said like something really funny, and I'm going to do that thing that everybody that sound that everybody does, right? So it's that one. So we want to get rid of that one, right? So here we go. Yes, okay, cool. So now I'm just gonna consolidate all that. By the way, that was Command J that I used to consolidate that. And then I'm just gonna have listen to that loop now. So the thing to do is to go into screwdriver modes, get in deep, play with the volume, play with the pitches, and then come back out to listen to the whole thing. Yeah, so that's basically that. I would say now we can also add a little bit of simple delay on there. So I usually link it, stick it on 3, magic number. Now that's actually adding a lot of delay there. I think we'll just turn that, try right down. Yeah, so we're just getting that little echo in the background. Okay, and that's so that's basically those two, and then the final thing that we're going to add, that will wrap up this drums tutorial. I've actually, in most of my productions, personally, now and my productions are just based on other people's productions. Basically, the way that I've noticed most of them work, and the way that most of mine work now, is that you have a tom that's actually bound to the structure of the drum loop, but then you also have this like mega tom at the end, which is just like, you know, that signals the transition. So we just go back to my most recent production. I'll show you in the break. You don't know, what you do to me. Probably need to turn the volume up on that tom, come to think about it. But point is that's our big tom that's going off in the background. So what we're going to do is I've got a dedicated drum rack that's got all sorts of toms. Some of them have even been sampled from around the web. So when I hear a good track with a really, really nice tom in, I sample it. And sometimes I speak to people, and sometimes we swap samples if that's how the conversation goes. So now, we've already signified the end of that particular drum loop with the tom that's bound to the drums. So really what we want to do is bring one of these toms outside the context. So what we're going to do is I'm going to double up this drum loop, and I'm going to loop the end. Turn that down a bit, and by looping the end, so I usually call this end tom, right? So by looping the end, sticking a MIDI clip in there, I'm just going to get this like huge, you know, this one that definitely is, you definitely end at the end of the musical phrase now. I'm not just part of the drum loop signaling, hey, on the end of the drum loop, I'm like, you know, something's going to change. I'm either going to introduce a vocal, I'm going to introduce a lead instrument, I'm going to go into a breakdown, I'm going to come out of a breakdown, something big is going to happen. Again, this is the pyramid analogy. We've built the pyramid of our drum loop. This is like the pyramid of the track, if you like. So I want to just go to 16 bars, and I'm just going to put in what I think is pretty good rhythm here. So that sounds all right. Let's just audition it on its own. Just keep messing around with it so it goes, you know, something like that. Yeah. So I like that one. What about this one? Let's put that audition on just to have a listen to these. I think this is one I actually sampled off a track. Cool. Right. Okay, so, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some crazy effects on it now, right? Because this is what will make your production stand out from everyone else's if you do some effects. And there's really only one or two different things that we need to do. The first one is we need to put a pitch envelope to bring that down, right? Bring that right down to that. And we want more of a hook at the end, right? We want it to stay the same and give more of a hook at the end. Yeah, right? Now I'll show you this other trick. What we're going to do is we're going to throw it around the stereo field. So we start, I can't remember which way this goes. So we start left. I think it's usually better to go left to right because we read left to right. I think our brains work left to right. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But I think it's like, you know, it's a bit like staying in the same scale all the time. So I think we need more of a thing on that. And I'm going to start it left on that first one. Right, and I quickly switch over to the other side. Okay, now on those ones there, I want it to swipe. Yeah, that's sounding good. Right, so there we go. Okay, and then we want to add a bit of reverb on there. Audio effects. Reverb. Okay. I think it's too much. Nah. Just take that off. It'd be a little bit too much. And also the decay time on it, so I'm going to turn this dry wet down. And I'm going to take the low cut off this reverb. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and I think also the other thing I've been doing recently as well is like a simple delay, and I usually put it before. Just put it before here, and so just link it. Magic number 3. Now what's happening there is because we've got notes that are whatever that 3 represents is the same distance apart, it's starting to phase. That sounds really good. Yeah, and I think that phasing is actually going to help you cut through the mix. So let's have a listen. Yeah, so there's a tiny bit of a clash going on here with the tom, so we could take that out for now. Yeah, so, and there we go. So that basically signifies the end of the loop. There we go, so that's a new disco drum loop. So that is the basic workflow that you can go through to create good workflows. So yeah, if you'd like me to give you this project or give you the stems, just send me a message on Facebook. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe to this channel, and if you like to keep up to date with this tune I showed you that's coming out, just follow me on SoundCloud or whatever. Okay, thanks a lot.